Hello and welcome to Election Night 2020. We have President Donald Trump versus Senator Elizabeth Warren. We have our MSNBC prediction showing Warren winning the election. CNN showing Warren would win the election. Fox News showing Donald Trump winning. ABC showing Trump winning. The Wall Street Journal showing Elizabeth Warren winning. The New York Times showing Donald Trump winning. We have our 7 p.m. poll closings out of the states of Vermont, Indiana, Kentucky, Virginia, South Carolina, and Georgia. In the state of Indiana, its projected winner is Donald Trump. Its 11 electoral votes will go to him. This is a solid Republican state. And in the state of Vermont, Bernie Sanders' home state, Elizabeth Warren will carry their 3 electoral votes. In the state of Kentucky, it's projected to go to Donald Trump with its 8 electoral votes going into his column. In the state of Virginia, it is too close to call. Elizabeth Warren has a 3% lead over Donald Trump. 24% of the vote is in, and it has 13 electoral votes. The state of South Carolina is projected to go to Donald Trump. Its 9 electoral votes will go in his column. And in the state of Georgia, it is too close to call. Trump has a 6% lead over Elizabeth Warren. Its 16 electoral votes are only 19% in. Donald Trump currently has 28 electoral votes to Elizabeth Warren's 3. To win the election, they need to get 270. We have our 7:30 p.m. poll closings out of the states of Ohio, West Virginia, and North Carolina. In the state of West Virginia, this is a reliable Trump state, having its 5 electoral votes going to his column. In the state of Ohio, it is too close to call. Trump has a 5% lead over Elizabeth Warren. Only 14% of the vote is in, and it's worth 18 electoral votes. The state of North Carolina is too close to call. Donald Trump has a 1% lead over Elizabeth Warren. Only 22% is in, and it's worth 15 electoral votes. We have an update in the state of Virginia. Elizabeth Warren has a 4% lead over Donald Trump. 39% of the vote is in, and has 13 electoral votes. In the state of Georgia, Donald Trump now has a 5% lead. 31% of the vote is in, and it's worth 16 electoral votes. Donald Trump has 33 electoral votes, so Elizabeth Warren's 3. We have our 8 p.m. poll closings in the states of Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, District of Columbia, Pennsylvania, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Illinois, Missouri, and Oklahoma. And at Maine at large, Elizabeth Warren has a 7-point lead over Donald Trump. Its 2 electoral votes are only 29% in. And Maine's 1st congressional district will go to Elizabeth Warren. Its 1 electoral vote will go in her column. And Maine's 2nd is too close to call. Donald Trump has a 2% lead over Elizabeth Warren there. Only 33% of the vote is in. And her home state of Massachusetts is projected to go in her column with its 11 electoral votes adding to her margin. As well as Rhode Island's 4 electoral votes projected to go to Elizabeth Warren. Connecticut's 7. New Jersey's 14 electoral votes are going into Warren's column. Delaware's 3. Maryland's 10. And the Capitol's 3 electoral votes will be projected to go to Elizabeth Warren. The state of New Hampshire is too close to call. 4 electoral votes and 25% of the vote is in. Elizabeth Warren has a 2% lead over Donald Trump. In the state of Pennsylvania, Elizabeth Warren has a 10-point lead over Donald Trump. there's only a couple counties in, 17% of the vote is currently in, and it's worth a large 20 electoral votes. The state of Florida's 29 electoral votes are 11% in. Donald Trump has a 2% lead over Elizabeth Warren. And the state of Illinois is projected to go to Elizabeth Warren. The 20 electoral votes will add to her margin. The state of Tennessee is projected to go to Donald Trump. Its 11 electoral votes will be added to his column. And the state of Mississippi is projected to Donald Trump. Its 6 electoral votes will be added to his column, as well as Missouri's 10 electoral votes. The state of Oklahoma is projected to go to Donald Trump. Its 7 electoral votes will add to his margin. And the state of Ohio is too close called. Donald Trump has a 4% lead over Elizabeth Warren. It's worth 18 electoral votes, and 29% of the vote is in. In the state of North Carolina, 34% of the vote is in. It's worth 15 electoral votes, and Donald Trump has a 2% lead over Elizabeth Warren. In the state of Virginia, it's worth 13 electoral votes. It's 37% in, and Elizabeth Warren has a 6% lead over Donald Trump. In the state of Georgia, it's 43% in. It's worth 16 electoral votes, and Trump has a 3% lead over Elizabeth Warren. Donald Trump and Elizabeth Warren are now tied with both 76 electoral votes. We have our 8:30 p.m. poll closing in the state of Arkansas. And the state of Arkansas is projected to go to Donald Trump. Its 6 electoral votes will add to his margin. And in Maine at large, Elizabeth Warren has a 6-point lead over Donald Trump. Its 2 electoral votes are 38% in. And in Maine's second, Donald Trump now having a 4% lead over Elizabeth Warren. It's worth 1 electoral vote, and about half of the vote is in. In the state of New Hampshire, Elizabeth Warren now having a 4-point lead over Donald Trump with 34% of the vote in. And the crucial state of Pennsylvania, Elizabeth Warren going over Trump by 3 points there. It's worth 20 electoral votes, and it's 30% in. In the state of Florida, Donald Trump has a 1.5% lead over Elizabeth Warren, and it's worth 29 electoral votes. Only 22% of the vote is in. In the state of Ohio, Donald Trump now extending his lead to 6%. It's worth 18 electoral votes, and it's 40% of the vote is in. In the state of North Carolina, it's worth 15 electoral votes. About half the vote is in, and Donald Trump has a 3% lead over Elizabeth Warren. In the state of Virginia, Elizabeth Warren having a 4-point lead over Donald Trump. It's worth 13 electoral votes, and 52% of it's in. In the state of Georgia, it's worth 16 electoral votes. More than half the vote is in, and Trump has a 5-point lead over Elizabeth Warren. Donald Trump having 82 electoral votes to Elizabeth Warren's 76. We have our 9 p.m. poll closings in New York, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Texas, Louisiana, Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona. In the state of New York, it's projected to go to Elizabeth Warren. This is Donald Trump's home state. In the state of Michigan, Elizabeth Warren has a huge 8-point lead over Donald Trump. It's worth 16 electoral votes, and 20% of the vote is in. In the state of Wisconsin, Donald Trump holds a 1-point lead over Elizabeth Warren. It's worth 10 electoral votes, and only 28% of the votes in. In the state of Minnesota, Elizabeth Warren has a 4-point lead over Donald Trump, and it's worth 10 electoral votes, as well as a quarter of the vote is in. In the state of North Dakota, it's projected to go to Donald Trump. Its 3 electoral votes are going to his column, as well as South Dakota's 3 electoral votes. Nebraska at large, its 2 electoral votes will be going to Donald Trump. Nebraska's 1st district will also go to Donald Trump. Its 1 electoral vote will add to his margin. In Nebraska's 2nd, Donald Trump has a 6-point lead over Elizabeth Warren. It is too close to call. It's worth 1 electoral vote and 19% of the votes in. In Nebraska's 3rd, it's projected to go to Donald Trump. Its 1 electoral vote will add to his margin. In the state of Kansas, its 6 electoral votes will be added to his margin. And in the state of Louisiana, it's projected to go to Donald Trump. Its 8 electoral votes will add to his column. In the state of Texas, its 38 electoral votes will be projected to go to Donald Trump. And in the state of Wyoming, it's projected to go to Donald Trump. Its 3 electoral votes will be added to Trump's column. In the state of Colorado, it's too close called. Elizabeth Warren having a 7-point lead over Donald Trump. It's worth 9 electoral votes. 26% of the vote is in. And in the state of New Mexico, it's projected to go to Elizabeth Warren. In the state of Arizona, it's too close to call. Donald Trump has a 4-point lead over Elizabeth Warren. It's worth 11 electoral votes, and 21% of the vote is in. In Maine at large, Elizabeth Warren has a 5-point lead over Donald Trump. It's worth 2 electoral votes, and half the vote is in. In Maine's 2nd, Donald Trump has a 5-point lead over Elizabeth Warren. It's worth 1 electoral vote, and 65% of the vote is in. In the state of New Hampshire, it's worth 4 electoral votes, half the votes in, and Elizabeth Warren's up 3 points over Donald Trump. In the state of Pennsylvania, Donald Trump now taking a 2% lead over Elizabeth Warren. 41% of the vote is in. In the state of Florida, 30% of the vote is in. Donald Trump has a 0.5% lead over Elizabeth Warren. It's worth 29 electoral votes. In the state of Ohio, its 18 electoral votes are more than halfway in, and Trump has a 6-point lead over Elizabeth Warren. In the state of North Carolina, its 15 electoral votes are 62% in, and Trump has a 2% lead over Warren. In the state of Virginia, Warren has a 3-point lead over Donald Trump. It's worth 13 electoral votes, and 68% of the vote is in. In the state of Georgia, Trump has a 6-point lead over Warren. 70% of the vote is in. Trump now having a 147 electoral votes to Warren's 110. We have our 10 p.m. poll closings in the states of Iowa, Montana, Utah, and Nevada. In the state of Iowa, Donald Trump has a 9-point lead over Elizabeth Warren. 27% of the vote is in. It's worth 6 electoral votes. And in the state of Montana, its projected winner is Donald Trump. In the state of Utah, its 6 electoral votes are projected to go to Donald Trump. And in the state of Nevada, it's too close to call. Trump has a 2-point lead over Warren. 25% of the votes in. In the state of Michigan, Warren has a 4-point lead over Trump. 16 electoral votes at stake. 36% of the vote in. Wisconsin's worth 10 electoral votes, 39% of the votes in, and Trump has a 0.5-point lead over Warren. In the state of Minnesota, Warren holds a 6-point lead over Donald Trump. In the state of Nebraska, its second district, Donald Trump has a 2-point lead over Warren. 32% of the vote is in. In the state of Colorado, its 9 electoral votes are 38% in. Warren holds a 4-point lead over Trump. In the state of Arizona, Trump now having a 6-point lead over Warren with 34% of the vote in. In Maine at large, it's 66% in, and Warren has a 3-point 3% lead over Donald Trump. In Maine's 2nd Congressional District, Trump has a 4-point lead over Elizabeth Warren. In the state of New Hampshire, Warren has a 2.5% lead over Donald Trump. 60% of the vote is in. In the state of Pennsylvania, Elizabeth Warren now taking a 2% lead over Donald Trump. 58% of the vote is in. In the state of Florida, Trump has a 1.5% lead over Elizabeth Warren. About half the vote is now in. In the state of Ohio, Trump has a 7.5 lead over Elizabeth Warren with 68% of the vote in. In the state of North Carolina, 80% of the votes in. Trump has a 3-point lead over Warren. And in the state of Virginia, 83% of the vote in. Warren has a 4-point lead over Donald Trump. We have a major projection. The state of Georgia will stay with Donald Trump, giving it 16 electoral votes to him. Donald Trump has 172 electoral votes to Warren's 110. We have our 11 p.m. poll closings out of the states of Idaho, Washington, Oregon, California, and Hawaii. In the state of Hawaii, its projected winner is Elizabeth Warren. In the state of Oregon, its projected winner is Elizabeth Warren, giving her 7 electoral votes. In the state of Washington, its 12 electoral votes are projected to go to Elizabeth Warren. In the state of California, its 55 electoral votes are projected to go to Elizabeth Warren. And the state of Idaho is projected to go to Donald Trump. We have an update in the state of Iowa. It now has an 8-point lead for Donald Trump. 40% of the votes in. It's worth 6 electoral votes. In the state of Nevada, 36% of the votes in. It's worth 6 electoral votes. Warren has a 2-point lead over Donald Trump. In the state of Michigan, Warren has a 2-point lead over Donald Trump. 47% of the vote is in. In the state of Wisconsin, Warren has a 1.5% lead over Donald Trump. Half the vote is in. In the state of Minnesota, half the vote's in. And Warren has a 4-point lead over Donald Trump. In the state of Nebraska, its 2nd Congressional District, Trump has a 3-point lead over Warren. 41% of the vote is in. In the state of Colorado, Warren has a 6-point lead over Donald Trump. Half the vote is in. In the state of Arizona, half the vote's in. It's worth 11 electoral votes, and Trump has a 5-point lead over Warren. In Maine at large, Warren has a 5-point lead over Donald Trump. 76% of the votes in. In Maine's 2nd Congressional District, Trump has a 4-point lead over Elizabeth Warren. 78% of the vote is in. In the state of New Hampshire, 70% of the vote is in. Warren has a 2.5% lead over Donald Trump. In the state of Pennsylvania, Trump has a 2-point lead over Warren. 68% of the vote is in. In the state of Florida, 62% of the vote is in. Trump has a 2-point lead over Warren. We have a major projection. The state of Ohio will go to Donald Trump. And another major projection, the state of North Carolina is projected to go to Donald Trump. And another major projection, the state of Virginia is projected to go to Elizabeth Warren. Trump now has 209 electoral votes to Warren's 201. We have our 1 a.m. poll closing in the state of Alaska. In the state of Alaska, its 3 electoral votes are projected to go to Donald Trump. In the state of Iowa, 70% of the votes in. Trump has a 6-point lead over Elizabeth Warren. In the state of Nevada, Warren has a 1-point lead over Donald Trump. 66% of the vote is in. In the state of Michigan, Warren has a 3-point lead over Donald Trump. 67% of the vote is in. In the state of Wisconsin, Trump has a 2-point lead over Warren. 71% of the vote is in. In the state of Minnesota, Warren has a 3-point lead over Donald Trump. 78% of the vote is in. In the state of Nebraska, its 2nd congressional district is 60% in. Donald Trump has a 4-point lead over Warren. In the state of Colorado, Elizabeth Warren has a 4.5% lead over Donald Trump. 70% of the vote is in. In the state of Arizona, Trump has a 6-point lead over Elizabeth Warren. 63% of the vote is in. And a major projection. Maine at large is projected to go to Elizabeth Warren with its 2 electoral votes going into her column. And Maine second is too close to call. 4-point lead for Donald Trump. 88% of the vote is in. In New Hampshire, 83% of the votes in. Warren has a 2-point lead over Trump. 4 electoral votes are at stake. In the state of Pennsylvania, Donald Trump now takes a 1.5% lead over Elizabeth Warren. 81% of the votes in. In the state of Florida, 84% of the votes in. Trump has a 2.5% lead over Elizabeth Warren. Trump has 212 electoral votes to Warren's 203. We have our major projection. The state of Iowa is projected to go to Donald Trump. 6 electoral votes going to go into his column. In the state of Nebraska, I think this Nebraska's 2nd congressional district, Elizabeth Warren now has a 0.5%, or no, it's Nevada. Elizabeth Warren has a 0.5% lead over Donald Trump. 78% of the votes in. In the state of Michigan, 80% of the votes in. Elizabeth Warren is at 2.5% lead over Donald Trump. In the state of Wisconsin, Trump is a 2-point lead over Warren. 87% of the vote is in. In the state of Minnesota, 89% of the votes in. Warren has a 3-point lead over Donald Trump. 10 electoral votes are at stake. In Nebraska, second, it's 1 electoral votes too close to call. 74% in. Trump has a 3-point lead over Warren. And in the state of Colorado, it's projected to go to Elizabeth Warren. Its 9 electoral votes will go into her column. And another major projection, the state of Arizona is projected to go to Donald Trump. Its 11 electoral votes will go to his column. And another major projection, the state of New Hampshire is projected to go to Elizabeth Warren. Its 4 electoral votes will go into her column. And Maine second is projected to go to Donald Trump. Its 1 electoral vote will add to his margin. We have an update in the state of Pennsylvania. Trump has a 1-point lead over Warren. 91% of the vote is in. And a major projection, the state of Florida is projected to go to Donald Trump. Its 29 electoral votes will add to his margin. Trump now having 259 electoral votes to Warren's 216. The state of Nevada is projected to go to Elizabeth Warren. Its 6 electoral votes will add to her margin. Breaking news. The state of Michigan is flipped to Elizabeth Warren. Its 16 electoral votes will go into her column. Breaking news. The state of Wisconsin is projected to go to Donald Trump. Its 10 electoral votes will add to his margin. And another major projection, the state of Minnesota is projected to go to Elizabeth Warren. Its 10 electoral votes will be added to her margin. Breaking news. Nebraska's 2nd congressional district is projected to go to Donald Trump. Its 1 electoral vote will add to his margin. And Donald Trump is projected winner for the presidency in the 2020 election, defeating Elizabeth Warren. And the state of Pennsylvania is projected to go to Donald Trump. Its 20 electoral votes will add to his margin. Trump having 290 electoral votes to Warren's 248 when all the states are in. Thanks for watching. Comment if you agree or disagree. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell button. If you like this format, let me know and I'll use it again another election night. Also, if you want to see another person in an election night, leave it down below. Thanks for watching. Bye.